This will be another installment of my layout. As I built the thing, I took photos of each section because it was built sections, and we've talked about Story City, which is off to the left, and Curve with the going over Skunk River at the very end of the room there with the train sitting on it. And I think we talked about Roland, which is on the ground here on the floor on the left side of this. And this installment, excuse me, talks about the curve at the end of this peninsula, or the turnback curve, I think I called it. So here we've got the thing up in the air. The thing was originally built to be able to be extended. So this curve section would come loose from the two side sections and can be moved further down the room. Well, that was a good idea, but it didn't work out that way. And I don't think it would make the railroad any longer anyway. But as you can see here, it's just a box frame with kind of an L girder box frame combination. And the uprights are to hold the backdrop once that goes into place. And the foam will be the actual roadbed, sub-road bed rather, that we're going to use to put the track. Here's another view of it. It would be supposed to be simple enough to remove these two screws here and then hold, and a couple more over this way, and the whole thing would slide down. But in practice, it doesn't work out quite that way. This is a shot showing the backdrop going up. I always end up with seams where I don't want them, but that's the way that goes. The fascias going in place, and I've marked off where I want to cut the fascia for the landforms, because this area here between Roland and Ziering, and had McCallsburg in the middle, which I chose not to model. It was rolling country, and the train would go to a cut over a fill, through a cut over a fill, all the way between the three towns. And I wanted to make that sort of, excuse me, I wanted to incorporate that in this curve. And you can see here I built a cabinet underneath the curve, and that's to store all the empty boxes for the models that are on the layout. And we're getting ready here to try and do something to cut down on the drumming effect that you get from using styrofoam. So this time I'm going to try using this camper tape and then put HomaBed on top of it. On the other curve, I used just HomaBed, and it turned out to have some noise to it. You know, that's the way it goes. And so this time I thought I would try something different. And here you can see the HomaBed on top of that. It turned out to be not much quieter than the other with just the HomaBed on the foam. You can see a photograph there of a road I took over about 8 miles east of here. What I wanted to do with this curve is, being that there's probably 10, 12 foot of room behind this curve, or looking, if you're standing there, you're looking right at it. So I wanted something to catch someone's eye when they looked at the curve. So I thought road and a cornfield might work out. So I drew myself a scale drawing. This is close to any drawing. I think I've drawn 3 or 4 sketches of layouts my entire career. But this one shows basically what I want to attempt to do. I want to have a road that goes off into the distance and a cornfield to the left of that. And when you go around the corner, I wanted another trestle. That's supposed to be a facsimile of Bear Run, which is actually just west of Roland. So now to make the topographical features of the area, I've got some ceiling tile here. And in retrospect, especially on my base units that are flat and Homosote covered, I wish I had put only Homosote where the track was and then used ceiling tile where the buildings are going to go, especially on Carlberg, where I want to remove the buildings. Then you can dig out and let the foundation or the base of the building set down level with the ground. So that was and it had good intentions, but didn't follow through. And here you can see I'm trying to build up some hill arrangement here by stacking this ceiling tile. This shows a rough image that I'm planning on making at the cornfield in the background. Now to make this thing more appropriate, to kind of finish it off a little bit, I use a sure foam tool and water on the ceiling tile to kind of shape it a little bit. And you can see that anytime you're dealing with scenery, it's messy work. Okay, now here I've got the cut in place, rather roughed in. I wanted to see how high it was going to be, so I put a car there, or a caboose in this case, to see how high it was going to come up on that. And I decided I wanted to make it a little taller, so I added another piece on both sides. So this is what the curve looks like. I did basically hack down on into the foam here and here to create the fills. Then these are the cuts on either side, and the roads here. This stuff is all ceiling tile. I think what I'm doing here, I haven't looked at this in 5 years probably. What I'm doing here, 4 years, 3 years. Anyway, what I'm doing here is I'm super elevating the curve. I thought that would be cool. I've never done that before. So I stuck a piece of square styrene under the outside a rail. And then I think what I'm looking at here is my drill that I'm using to drill holes to spike down the track. And then road crossing, we have to have a crossing there for vehicles so they don't fall in on the track. As you can see, it's basically some timber, and we'll see what comes next. I don't remember. It looked like I basically filled the damn thing full of glue and then covered and poured in gravel, or vice versa. And then here's the road wet still with the gravel in the center of the rails. I apply that with a salt shaker. It's easier to do that way and then just vacuum up the excess. Well, this is the road in place with scenery roughed in on each side of it, and the backdrop kind of, I ended up sliding the backdrop down a little further than I wanted to. It should have been up another quarter or half an inch, but it gives you instead of having the road butt right into the backdrop, by having the road drop away and come up again on the photo, it gives you the illusion of distance without having that butt joint that you can use a fillet sometimes to solve. Otherwise, it's a situation any way you look at it. So here I've got, I'm ballasting the track now. And this is going to be the cornfield. Now this is Buford Shops corn. I believe it's Buford Shops, and it is not the best. If you want to use the plastic single file soldier stuff like this, the Knox stuff is 100 times better. But this is what I used the first time. And I had some, because the ground is not level, and because I've never done this before, I have some issues. What I'm doing here is trying to glue this stuff all down. You can see the nails in there trying to hold it all in place. And once I get it all in place, I realized I forgot to paint it. So here you can see I've gone in with craft paint and tried to paint. I guess there's 3 photos here. The top photo shows the corn in place. The middle photo shows where I went in with brown craft paint and tried to paint the base or the ground and getting it on the corn box, which is okay. And then the top one, the bottom photo, I put some brown or autumn colored static grass around them, because I remember cornfields in my younger days, there was always weeds along the fence line. They never bothered with that. So anyway, top one shows that hill with static grass, and the lower photo, in order to make that field look halfway realistic, I bought a bunch of the JT grass, or not grass, excuse me, the corn stalks. And I put a row or 2 around the perimeter of that crappy looking stuff. And then I put in fence rows, and I don't put wire on the fences. I've never seen one yet that I like. And so I refuse to do that. And you can see just the posts there for the fence. Here the scene is getting close to being finished here as far as the groundwork goes. Backdrop still needs some work. But I remember my grandfather telling me that they used to put in wooden posts every rod, which is 15, 16 feet. And because the cattle push against it, or the hogs would root under it, they add steel in between, or at least 1, sometimes 2. And they would always have extra posts because of the tension of the wire. So you can see I've added 3 there with supports between them. And also rocks from the field would be stacked up somewhere along here. And then you got to have the tire with the no hunting sign on it. I also put a rock on top of a fence post. You'll see that today on occasion. Now we're looking at the end of the cornfield and blending it into the backdrop. It looks okay. Another view, it's kind of blended together fairly well. The backdrop seems to be in place now, is what I was looking at. Another photo, this one here, I don't know what happened, but I'm not really happy with this ditch. So I redo it, dig it all up and redo it. And I think this one looks a little better. So now we've gone around the corner and it's time to make that trestle. When I did the one over Skunk River, it was the first one I've done this way. And I used the Walther's trestle kit, which is probably the best buy of all the Walther's models available. But this time I learned my lesson from the other one. And I basically am going to build up a step on either side of the river so the bents have somewhere to go. And it'll look something like this when it's finished. And there's where the trestle bents are going to go. So I've kind of marked things off the way I think they should be. I've got a photo of the actual Bear Creek trestle and by Bill Armstrong. So here I'm trying to start out. This is the base to the river. Some leftover scraps. And then I used like florist foam with the white foam you get at Hobby Lobby or Michael's, I guess. It's stiffer than the pink foam. It's more brittle too. Here's all painted brown. Backdrop's in place now where the creek is going to come in. This was taken over close to where that other road was on the end of the module section. Here we've got grass in place, and river's been painted, or the stream. And I use Mod Podge, just paint several layers of that on. But you see in the back, there's a gap between the photo backdrop and the actual base of the stream. So we fixed that, just putting some paint back there and adding a little more grass on some more clumps. Now we've got the trestle in place and looking how it's going to look with the track at the top. And here's the thing, getting close to completion, you can see that there are gaps on both sides of those green stripes that I'm trying to fill in, and I paint them green, and I'll put more ground foam on them, and the white is the not cured Mod Podge on the stream. Here it shows the back where my gap is between the backdrop, and try to bring that all together. And here I filled in those gaps on either side with more ground foam and also some stack grass, and filled the river. Now looks more complete, the stream from backdrop to the base. I tried to do a sumac bush with what I had available. I never did like it. Eventually I found a reddish purple ground foam, so I replaced this with a more appropriate looking one. It's basically just that polyfiber pulled apart into a ball, glued in place, sprayed with hairspray, and then covered with ground foam. Another view showing down to Highway 65. And this is Highway 65. When back in the mid-60s, I used to drive this road almost every weekend and used to cross these tracks, never get a second thought as to what they were, who they belonged to. Here you can see that I didn't like that ditch, and this is probably, I don't know, things might be a little out of sequence here, but I'm digging the ditch a little bit deeper. This is another photo of the track that's being super elevated. This is another, get another look at that. Roadbed is going to be tailored in this area to look much better than the rest of the railroad, which is mud and weeds basically. So I did the sides first. I'm never good at this kind of work, so there's the sides and brush. You can see I've got glue, diluted and straight. I've got a bottle to squirt it with, and a brush to adjust it, and a spoon to lay it on with. And here I'm building it up, trying to get the damn slope covered up. Here it's been squirted with wet glue. I must be happy with it because now I'm working on the backdrop. I mean, things are a little out of sequence here. But anyway, there's a picture of the highway really down by Zeering, Highway 65. What I've wanted to do, and I haven't done it yet, is on that photograph, there's a road going to the right. I want to put a sign on the backdrop that says Zeering 1 mile or something like that. There's always something to do. One of the problems I have is take backdrop pieces out to Staples to have them printed, and it saves ink. Not that expensive. I get about 18 inches for $3, maybe 4 at the most. But sometimes they don't match up the ink. And you can see this cornfield is basically the same photograph flipped. And it didn't, when they printed them, the one doesn't match the other. I could have taken it back, but it's not that big a deal to me. I guess we're another view looking out over the whole area here. Yeah, this shows some of that poorly matched ink. And here's the curve as I'm working on it. The whole layout was built. You can tell it's right after Christmas because we had a family get together. So everybody sits around this table. And my wife put that on the floor. I don't know if she's trying to protect the carpet from me or the grandkids, probably from me. But anyway, this is how all of the railroad is built. It's all built on this table. This shows ground cover. A lot of people like to cover their foam with what they call goop, which is some concoction that covers everything and fills in cracks. And I don't do that. I think it's a waste of time. But you can see that there's a triangular shaped flat spot here. This shows basically when I made my cut. You know, it's not exactly perfect. You know, it's speed over quality in my book. Here I'm putting on basically looks like full strength glue. Here I've taken a brush and painted everything with it. And then here I've added the ground foam, or ground, excuse me, the static grass. And then we've added the ground foam. After the static grass is dry, I'll go over and layer it or stack it. And you can see there are various other shades of grass, usually lighter colors on the hills and on the left side of the main there. Also go over it then when it's dry with hairspray and sprinkle on ground foam and add bushes here and there. And this is one of the places where I pulled the John Allen, as you can see. The scenery is being put on before the track. Just looking at the ground from here, I guess. And the roadbed looks wet, like it's have track laid on it. Another look at the foam. Oh, here I'm going to try and fix that triangle that we looked at earlier. So I laid down some a mask, basically, of this cardboard, and then hairspray, stacked more grass along the edges of that triangle. And it sort of worked, but you can see where the edge of that cardboard was. This shows, I think I corrected that with more ground foam. And this shows some of the leafy, what we call leafy material, put onto the ground foam. And you can see I had just done this because you can see little twinkles on the grass, little white dots, and that would be reflection from the hairspray. The top one is before and the bottom one is after. You can see if you look at the top one by the paintbrush, there's a whole bunch of little white or light colored strips or dots, and that's glue. And then if you look at the lower photo, I've gone over it with a much lighter color static grass and then vacuumed up the excess. So it gives a look of some dead grass in different places. This is the curve to Roland. We haven't looked at this end of it yet, but I tried to do a back plant. Got a tree back there covering up a bad spot in the junction of the two cornfield photos. Fence lines in place. I put some old ties out to show that the railroad had been rehabbed. Now we're looking a little further around the curve at the cornfield and the edge of the road, looking straight on the road. Looking off towards Zering through a cut, you can see old tie laying there. And this is a look back towards Zering is on it. Will be. It isn't built yet, but it will be on the right. And now we're looking back towards the curve. Now the fascia's in place. Looks like the bench work is in place for Zering, or it's there anyway. It'll come off to have the railroad built. But just kind of an overview of that section. But my idea was when you walk down the basement stairs and you turn to your left, you were supposed to look at that trestle, but the trestle is a little far to the right to be viewed straight on. Well, that was a slight scoop on my part. But anyway, here's the look at the whole curve with a train on it. Another one of the super-rated track. And we're looking towards Zering, which is just now starting to be in. Close-up view of one of the cuts. Now here's the train going over Bear Creek Trestle, which I didn't call Bear Creek Trestle because it's on the wrong side of the railroad. And here's a comparison between the real photo that I copied and then what I tried to do. And the best thing I could do was try and copy the fence line as best I could. So I tried to put all of the fence posts in about the same place as they are in the real photograph. And that is it. All done in a half an hour. Goodness.
Nice job, Clark.
Yep, very enjoyable.
So was that your first attempt at laying out all the roadbed before you put track on it?
No, I tried that once before and it didn't work out. I got something else here we can look at. I just looked back and there's more stuff here. If you've got questions, we'll go ahead and answer the questions. I'll show you. I don't know how many. There's 3 or 4, 5, 6 big. Yeah, we'll answer any questions and then go back and look at the other stuff.
Well, I was just I've noticed a few people talking about when, well, Mitch and Dennis, I think both were talking about how they do all their scenery first and then they lay the track. And obviously that keeps the track from getting all gummed up by the scenery work, but I just don't know how successful that is in terms of just getting the track right.
Well, there's a lot of people that glue their track down. And that's something that I've just never wanted to do, because there's always, especially when I'm building the layout, the finishing a whole section before I put it in place. So I can't try it out until after the damn thing's all done.
Right.
And so I may need to do some tweaking. And it's easy enough to do when you just have the track held in place with ballast. And all you have to do is put some alcohol on it, get about 30 seconds, and you can move that track around.
Mhm.
And just hold it where you want it, and the glue will dry again. It'll be stuck there. But I found that on that curve, it worked out well because the ballast was going down over the sides of the railroad.
All right.
When I used it before, where I've done this before, I had the grass creep up to the ties. And that was, I had to go over that 2 or 3 times. So generally speaking, things I build the layout and what the layout design elements, the LDEs, as Tony Custer calls them.
Right.
And then they're set into place. So the track is done before. I think maybe if we do another one of these, we'll do bearing and we'll see how that goes together. But anyway, this is a pigeonhole that Jason Clockey gave me. He collects this stuff and it has nothing to do with it. You get a good buy on it. So then he pawns it off on me. So what I've done here is close some of the every other pigeonhole with a small piece of masonite. And I'm using, and then writing on there the different businesses in each of the towns. To the left is red, that's Zering. Center is Roland in blue, and then black for Story City on the right. And those, I will put the car slips or the waybills of each of those businesses. And when I get ready to make a train, I'll just pull one out, put it in the car cart for that. Just a minute, let me put this back up again. Like so. But it definitely shows you all the spots.
Mhm.
Now I want to do, I wanted to have a desk that I could work on under the staging. So I built this. It's a piece of countertop from Menards and some wood that I couldn't afford to buy now. And some basically drawer sliding hardware, all from Menards. And then I brought that up under the bench work at and put it next to that pigeonholes where all the car carts are going to be, or the slips. And now that I got a chair there and I can pull that out to work on, so I have light and to push it, there it is, pull out, and then I can push it back in when it's not in use.
Nice.
And that's that.
Now I see where I left my measuring tape. It's on your table there.
Yeah, I used to work with a guy, and he went to visit another guy who had an acreage, and he had a small barn on the acreage, and they went out and were looking for something in the barn, and about every 6 feet there was a hammer hanging on the wall. And the guy says, "What's with all the hammers?" And he says, "I go to farm sales and I buy up all the tools, and then I hang them around the barn. So I'm never with further than arm's reach from a hammer." Because layouts eat. They eat tools, they eat supplies.
Oh, yeah.
You can set something down, turn around and turn back, and it's gone.
Yeah.
The layout has digested it. And I don't know how many others have found that out. But it's a disappearing act. The layout sucks up anything you lay on it because it doesn't want it there.
Try moving in the middle of renovations and you'll find the
There you go.
same thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. I still looking for something that I know I had the other day, but I just can't find it now. So
Well, I used to have that problem. I would come home from Monday night operating sessions, and my wife would be watching that hoarder show. So the next day I go down to the basement and throw everything away. So I'm not a hoarder. And then the next day or the day after, I wanted something I'd thrown away. Never failed.
Never fails.
Oh.
Never fails.
Mhm.
So this was evidently a short one. If you want to do this again sometime, zeroing would be a little longer.
Absolutely.
I can get rid of that.
Well, Lester is maybe going to do one this month, but other than that, let me see if I can pull up the schedule real quick because I changed some things because I'm going to be gone next week. So I think our next session is going to be Tuesday, the 13th. So we've got a week off. And then I've got class. So Tuesday, the 13th, and all these are open at this point. But like I say, Lester is going to get back to me. He's going to probably take one of these. Then we'll do Thursday, the 22nd of July, and then Wednesday the following week, the 28th. And then we'll be back to Thursdays. No more messing around.
Okay, well, the rest of this month, if Lester's going to do one, I'll be gone the week of the 19th, and we're going to the St. Louis RPM the 29th. So I probably won't be available that Wednesday. So it'd be in August. I can do something.
Yeah, we may skip that Wednesday because I'm going to the RPM meeting also. In fact, I think I'm.
Oh, okay, we'll see you there.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yep,
Yeah.
I plan to be there as well. So
Excellent.
It'll be
Yeah.
It's
A bunch of us will be.
it's the show. You know, the Naperville show was always the best. But my favorite is Cocoa Beach. For some reason, I like that one the best. That one in St. Louis, it's unbelievable as far as the, 600 people in there. It's more of an upgrade. It's not an RPM meet in the true sense of the word. It's more of a high-end train show. If you haven't been there before.
just saw something that Lonnie did an interview last night. He said that over 4,000 models 2 years ago, and they're aiming for 5,000 if they can do it this year for models on display. That's just
Wow.
phenomenal.
Yeah, that's the amazing part.
Something like 20 historical societies and I don't know how many vendors. And yeah.
Well, now that they've canceled Train Fest, the manufacturers, besides when you've got 500-600 people showing up that are all model railroaders that aren't families, manufacturers want to show up and show their goods off to the people that are going to buy them.
Yep.
Yeah, and you heard that the Chicagoland Naperville has also been canceled this fall.
Yeah, I think Mike Skibby is putting something together in Indianapolis.
Yes, he's working on that, but it kind of still had COVID restrictions that they just couldn't do what they want to do. So
Yeah, that's too bad. I know the problem is the hotels in Chicago don't want them anymore. They get more money from weddings than they do from the RPM meet. So it's a big loss to all of us that's been going there for 25 years or more.
yes.
I hope there's no problem down in Collinsville with the crowd of people. We are going down to North Judson in a couple of weeks, and because it's a train ride, we're all going to have to wear our mask.
Yeah.
Yeah, no problem with that, but I don't know what they'll decide to do. We'll have to see. The worst thing that could happen is they only allow so many people in the venue at a time.
Right.
That would be
That will be the worst.
That would be the worst thing they could do. You get used
Well,
to
I'm
wearing
ready
that.
for.
Yeah.
I'm ready for some barbecue.
There you go. Yeah, that'll be tonight. We'll see you there.
Yep.
I was told here the other day, one of the guys says that I'm probably the guy I'm going to ride with. We got to go early so we can get a seat at Bandanas. We'll see how that works out.
Well, I'll probably beat you there. We'll see. I usually do.
Yeah, we'll find out.
All right, I guess I'll sign off tonight.
All right. Thanks,
All right.
everybody. We'll see
Okay.
you. See you soon. Have a great
Um,
4th of July.